Peace and Black Power, family. This is how we're gonna do this, okay? First of all, I want y'all to see the flyer on the screen. We got Dr. Sabi coming in to Hollywood, to Los Angeles, California. Brother Polight and several others are bringing in Dr. Sabi. Also, Brother Polight is making his powerful return right back to Sarnetta TV. Now, you already know how he gets it in. The Hebrew, the Guerilla Hebrew, not just any Hebrew, family. Let me make it clear to you. The Guerilla Hebrew has decided to go on over there across the other side to see his brother Polight, his big brother Polight. And they had a sit down and a build, and it was awesome. But what I'm gonna do, family, is that I'm gonna give it to you in segments. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna give it all to you. I'm a spoon feed you, cause y'all can't handle this at one shot. Alright? So the first one is called, are the Israelites really African? That's something for y'all to really think about. Are the Hebrews really African? Now we're gonna get into this discussion. Sit back and relax and check it out. Peace and Black Power, family.
Not your mom.
Yeah, not your mom.
None of that mitochondrial DNA, white man science, none of that.
No.
Alright, I did it. I've been keeping up.
Okay.
So you are who your father is. But you guys are not African.
But now, listen, you can. That's why I say, as far as the African, some
okay,
people
as
say Israel is African.
let's say Hamites. You guys are not Hamites.
We're not Hamites, no.
Now, here's the question. Was you guys held in exile
In Africa?
in Africa?
Yes, we were.
Did the Egyptians oppress and enslave you?
Yes, they did.
Were you raped during that time of oppression?
I don't have any record biblically of any raping taking place by the Egyptians.
How long was you in Egypt oppressed?
Oppressed?
And enslaved?
And a slave for 400 years.
So in 400 years, is it safe to conclude that the African, more especially in the case who we would identify as the Hamite, who is synonymous with the Egyptian, your Egyptian slave masters would have raped you in the process of this 400 years? And
Well,
if you agree that's possible,
Okay.
that during your state, because we know what comes with oppression
It's rape, definitely.
is definitely
It's
rape.
definitely rape.
You know,
Yeah, to this one.
that's part of the acts of war.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
take your women.
Exactly.
You know,
so when we conquered you.
This is redundant throughout the course of history.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you are who your father is, and you are not Hamites / Egyptian / African, yet the Egyptians enslaved you for 400 years, and what is synonymous with slavery is rape. Would you not, on account to that 400 years of involuntary servitude / oppression, would you not have been raped, and would that not in turn make you Hamites, because your father would have had to have been Egyptian if he was being raped somewhere during the course of a 400-year period?
Well,
Wouldn't that make Israelites Hamites or Egyptians?
Well, I would say that was there certain Hamites that was amongst the Israelites during that time period, or that was mingled in? Yes, but there's a couple concepts that we got to understand first. First, I'm going to take you to the Bible, and then I'm going to give you some science.
Let's get it.
But go to, I think, start at the 10th verse.
This is Exodus chapter 1, verse 10.
Uh-huh.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them,
Right, this is the Egyptian talking about, let us deal wisely with the Israelite, right, read?
lest they multiply,
Uh-huh.
and it come to pass.
Yes, they multiply, so they worried about the men seed of Israel multiply, right? Go ahead.
Understood.
That when there falleth out any war,
Where we at? We at 10?
yeah, 10.
I want to skip, I think we skipped to 16. I
To
think.
16?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Exodus chapter 1, verse 16.
Uh-huh.
And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women,
Right, go ahead.
and see them upon the stools,
Uh-huh.
if it be a son, then ye shall kill him.
That's right, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. Now, if these children were Egyptian, what would be the Egyptian motivation in killing these Hebrew children? Now, on top of that, a scientific look at it would be the science of when you're dealing with, what is it? When you're dealing with high frequency lights, right? When you're dealing with high frequency lights, there's something called population absorption and inversion, right? Now, if you see, if a light of low frequency comes into an area in which that higher frequency light's overpopulated, it'll be absorbed. You see what I'm saying? The same thing, just like white people raped us when we was over here in slavery, but over the course of time, over a couple generations, that white child, if it mingles back in with us, is going to be absorbed. You see what I'm saying? So
now, what if the father has low frequency and the mother has high frequency? You still your father?
yes, because what we have to do
So how is
is
it the slave master is not your father in ancient Egypt? and he oppressed you for 400 years. How is it the Israelites are not coming out Hamitic people, the very people that they say they're not?
Well, I would say that do we mingle with Hamitic people? That's documented here in the scriptures. But again, if
I'm talking rape, because we know that this is an offset of war.
Yeah. Now, like I said, did rape take place? But we're dealing with on a massive scale. We got to deal with generalizations. You see what I'm saying? Because of course we can't sit here and isolate each individual case.
Of course we can't. But 400 years is I can tell you, as far as black people in America being enslaved for 400 years, we've been raped quite a bit.
Oh yeah, no, that's a fact.
So I can only conceive it would be just as worse, if not similar, in the times that you guys said that y'all was being oppressed there in Israel. In Egypt. So how are y'all not coming out just like your father, since you are your father, and your father was a slave master, and y'all was enslaved for 400 years by Hamitic, Kemite, Egyptian, African people? How could y'all not be African or Egyptian?
Well, what I'm saying is we could technically be African because you could argue that Israel itself is an African because it's on an African text.
So let's stick with Hamite Egyptian.
But how y'all not Egyptian? When we're not Hamite Egyptian is because the documentation of us being overly raped by Egyptians more than we was actually producing ourselves is something that's unprecedented. Now again, in accordance to the biblical narrative, the Hebrew babies was being born, not Egyptian babies. If there was Egyptian babies, there would be no
that book in particular, the one that you're talking
this
about.
One, well, this
book are we in right
this
now?
is the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus.
Cool.
Exodus. So this is a book.
Where that book come from?
This book's
doing that narrative.
Who's doing the narrative?
Was they around during that 400 years?
Moses scribes is doing the narrative, right? We have to, like a lot of people say that the first 5 books of Moses were written by Moses. That's not necessarily true. You got scribes, you got redactors that dealt with the actual writing of these things.
And where does that information come from? Because I never saw that in there.
Give me what is it? First Chronicles. I want to say it's 34.
And keep your finger on that page.
Hell no, we ain't going.
All right, cool.
Matter of fact, let me see. You got my phone right there.
It's going to get intense.
Let me see this real quick.
We just working our way in here.
More apps.
Yeah, I gotta log in real quick because if it's not right there, I'm gonna get it.
It's not a problem. We can keep this hot.
You know.
It's good.
You know, but while he's looking for that, I'm soon going to move off this subject matter. I'm just seeing if I can get a variation of answers for how people can be their father. You are who your father is, not who your mother is. We trace our lineage back to our fathers, according to the Israelite community and doctrine. So if I am who my father is, and I go through as a community a period of 400 years of slavery, oppression.
But see, are we white though? That's the whole thing. Now, if that's the case, if we Hamitic, then we done turn white in this captivity. You see what I'm saying?
Well, that's not my fault. This is your doctrine. I never said these things.
See,
I never said this.
But this is the whole thing to where are you telling me that these people is outpopulating us? You see what I'm saying? Can they outpopulate us?
Before you ask that question, are you asking me to answer a loophole in your doctrine?
Well, I guess you could technically say that. You see what I'm saying? But I'm just trying to get you to understand the logic to where, okay, anytime oppression takes place, rape is going to occur. People are going to slip through the trap.
Understand? And still black.
Yeah, of course. And the scriptures speak about the mixed multitude as well. That's meaning there was people that was not Hebrew Israelites that exited Egypt with Israel. Now something ended up happening to these same people. You see what I'm saying? Because it's a weeding out process. And also, matter of fact, did you get that scripture real quick? Is it speaking about the scribes? Because if not, I gotta find it real quick.
No, it's not.
But in the meantime, give me Matthew. Give me the wheat and the tears real quick. Right. Because who the world calls Christ Yahushua spoke a prophecy in regards to non-Israelites being amongst Israelites. You see what I'm saying? Gotcha. And the process in which they would be weeded out, and that's a process in which we cannot take upon ourselves. Because how the hell are we gonna know?
That's being honest,
right? Because look, if we go to DNA testing, right, you can have a black man, jet black man, and his DNA can say he's from Spain. You see what I'm saying?
That's what I'm
because DNA, I mean, sometimes you get it, like for example, you say you was the Igbo, right? My DNA going back to Benin, but I mean, doing the mixing, somebody can get a hit from anywhere. You see what I'm saying? So the best thing to do is to be, well, okay, we know who we are in general. So to deal with our people in general according to our forefathers, but if somebody's not amongst us, they're going to get weeded out. Go ahead.
This is Matthew chapter 13, verse 24. Another parable he put forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which soweth good seed in his field.
So the good seed is Israel, right? Go ahead.
But while men slept, his enemy came in and sowed tares among the wheat.
His enemy, now in this time our enemy would be the so-called white man, raping our women and doing things of that nature. But during different times we had different enemies. You see what I'm saying? So rape happened, and children who were not Israelites were amongst us. Even later on, I believe it's in Exodus or certain Numbers where it speaks about how you had an Israelite woman who had a son of an Egyptian, and how he was gathering sticks on the Sabbath. You see what I'm saying? If you're familiar with that story, but go ahead.
It says, and went his way, but when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. The
tares and the wheat. You know, dealing with agriculture, scriptures often have agricultural analogies. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the type of culture it was coming from. So it said the tares and the wheat was springing up together. You couldn't tell the difference because they was too close, right? Go ahead.
So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then have it tares?
Yeah, why is there descendants of Egyptians amongst you? Why is there descendants of white people among you? You see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
He said unto them, An enemy have done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay.
He said, No, wait a minute, right? Go ahead.
Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them.
We don't want to mess around and think somebody who's not one of us isn't one of us. You see what I mean? Who's not one of us is one of us, and mess around and get one of us in the midst of that. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Let both grow together until the harvest.
Until the harvest. What is the harvest? That's dealing with judgment day. You know about judgment day, apocalyptic prophecy, things of that nature. That's the harvest, right? Go ahead.
And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares.
Right? Go ahead.
And bind them in the bundles to burn them.
And burn them. See, the tares is gonna get X'd out. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
But gather the wheat into my barn.
And the wheat into my barn. Save the wheat. You see what I'm saying? So that's the biblical concept of how, if there is descendants of Hamitic people, descendants of Edomite, or any other nation for that matter. You see what I'm saying? Amongst us, that's how ultimately it's gonna get taken care of, because it's gonna be too complex of something for us to tackle in this time, because we don't know. Okay, I ain't got the record where your daddy is all the way back. You know what I'm saying? How they gonna have that record? You see what I'm saying? So that's basically how we do it. But for the scribes, real quick, it's 2 Chronicles 34 and 13. Because when Moses came, he established the Levitical priesthood with his brother Aaron, right? They were Levi, tribe of Levi, so-called Haitian people, right? So he established the Levitical priesthood. Now, there's a particular role of certain Levitical priests to do that office that they execute. They have different offices.
This is 2 Chronicles chapter 34, verse 13. It says, Also they were over the bearers of the Also they were over the bearers of burdens, and were overseers of all that wrought the work in any manner of service.
Go ahead.
And of the Levites there were scribes.
Scribes, right? Writing things down, right? Go ahead.
And officers.
Right, officers, go ahead.
And porters.
Porters who watch the gate. You see what I'm saying? So it was the different offices. One of the offices was the scribe's office. So them scribes are the one that did it. Because a lot of people say, well, if Moses wrote them books, how come he died in the book of Deuteronomy before the shit is even over? You see what I'm saying? Because scribes is writing that book. They're called the books of Moses, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was sitting there writing all of this down. You see what I'm saying?
I'm with all of that. I'm still, and pardon me, you're going to catch it on slow. I want to know how you stay somewhere for 400 years, get raped, you stipulate you are who your father is. Not your mother, not the combination of your mother and father. You are who your father is. You are oppressed, enslaved, in a state of involuntary servitude for 400 years straight. Raped. In between that time, intravenously throughout the 400 years straight. And you guys come out Israelites and not who your father, the slave master, is, based on your doctrine. It is not my doctrine.
Yeah,
so when I'm asked, black people, white people, because Zariak said the same thing.
Okay,
Are you saying that black people are white people since they've been raped by the white man? I'm not saying that. But you guys say you are who your father is. So since you guys say it, I never said that. You guys say you are who your father is. You guys say that you are not the Hamites. You guys have contentions amongst the Hamites. You guys say the Hamites are cursed. You guys say God has no love for the Hamites. So that being the case, do you hate yourselves because you guys have been born of the very Hamites that you do not regard as having favor?
Well, we was born in Hamites, Hamitic women. I'll give you that. But like I said, now
you guys have sex with a African Hamite Egyptian woman.
You sure can, and you can bring forth an Israelite man. Because think about it, right?
Women can't have no sex with them. And the children come out Israelite.
Because it's a patrilineal thing. Because what happened, like I said, when you deal with DNA, many different things can happen. But as a definitive, you can say, well, you are who your father is. That means definitively, irregardless of what occurs, we can say definitively who you are nationally. You see what I'm saying?
Now, here's a question. Do you have any knowledge or concern about the mitochondrial DNA, or do you guys say that that is just the white man's information? Because I heard GMS, and you say that you subscribe to GMS.
Yeah, that's my elders. Yeah.
Those are your elders. You rock out with them. Now, I want to know, do you even take the time out to study that which you refute?
Yeah,
or do you just refute it without even studying?
Of course, I studied. Ever since this whole debate thing came on the scene, as far as debating with the conscious community,
no doubt,
we've been looking into everything.
That's,
you know what I'm saying?
You
say things, y'all. We watch a lot of your tape, right? You say things, I'm looking into what the hell you talking about.
That's what's up.
They talk about the Barfum gland. Well, I'm gonna look into the Barfum gland. You know, I'm gonna see if that's for real. Because I've built with other Nuwabians and they hit me with that before. I didn't even remember what they said because I didn't pay no attention to it. But once I understood what it was, I went and researched it. And, you know, we got to deal with these different things. I can't just sit here and say to hell with what you're saying, and I don't have a viable antithesis to refute what you're saying. You see what I'm saying? I got to be able to know these sciences at least on the surface level in order to debunk your premise. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we definitely study, you know, from the mitochondrial DNA, and I understand different things. But the thing about DNA is when it gets jumbled and people come together, anything can happen. You see what I'm saying?
But have you taken the time out to study mitochondrial DNA?
I know a little bit about mitochondrial DNA, and even prior, I took biology in high school. So
now, what would you say to me if I told you I know a little bit about the Bible, know a little bit about the thing that I'm debating against? What would you guys normally say? You can't just read one verse and come to a conclusion, brother. You gotta read the whole chapter. This is what you guys tell me all the time.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
So what I'm saying is, if you did some research on the mitochondrial DNA, one, you will learn that where the female's mitochondrial DNA is versus where the male's is contrast immensely. One is in the cytoplasm of the cell and one is in the nucleus of the cell. That contrast confirms something to us. The male's mitochondrial DNA is too diversified. It'd be too complexing to even try to trace it back to a single point. When you study the females, you understand that upon the spermatozoa encountering the ovum, that the mitochondria of the males is evaded. It doesn't diffuse into the egg. So all we are left with is with the mother's genetic material mandates, dictates, or its decree in general. All we left with is what the mother has to say, because the mother has a true account. We're not talking about mitochondria of the cell, the power plant of the cell. We're talking about mitochondrial DNA, which is a difference. A lot of people think they're one and the same.
Yeah.
The mitochondrial DNA of a female stays suspended within that DNA account, whereas the males, upon that fusion of the egg and the sperm, it stays outside. It is null and void, and we cannot trace no more data, which is one of the reasons why many may say, if we regard anybody as our direct lineage, we should identify the female as the progenitor of society, mainly in part due to the fact that her mitochondrial DNA is not lost amidst of the fusion between the egg and the sperm. And in fact, they even did an experiment with 147 different women's placentas and traced them all back to one common ancestor, something that they cannot do to present day with the male's mitochondria, because it is moot trying to even research how many men the males come from through that means as far as mitochondrial DNA is concerned, because it is no longer suspended in that DNA trace upon the fusion of the egg and the cell. So when we say these things, and I have no problem if you say by law and by culture y'all choose to identify the man as where you come from, I don't disagree. I would say this is why I wouldn't subscribe to it. I wouldn't say it makes me less than a man, as some people would say. I disagree with that idea, but it's still your right culturally to identify with the male as the one carrying the baton, or the lineage baton. Fine. For the last time, I just want to know how you not coming out African after 400 years of slavery from men, since you come from the men, you come from your males, your father's sperm, and that's how y'all filing this thing down. Whatever man begets you is who you are. If that is the case, how do you survive or go through 400 years of oppression, involuntary servitude by the Hamite, by the Egyptian, by the Kemetic host, by the African? How do you not come out African, Kemetic, Egyptian? Not say that they are exactly or immediately Egyptians, one of the main groups of black people I would have to say are Egyptian. Before even the Kemetic community could say I'm Egyptian, I would have to say the Israelites would have to say they're Egyptian. Because based on your history, you trace your history back to being oppressed for 400 years by Egyptians. So if anybody's an Egyptian, it would be an Israelite before it would be anybody else.
Well, again, like I would say, well, first I want to do with the DNA thing real quick. As far as the mitochondrial DNA goes, now, but at the end of the day, who has, what is it, with the Y chromosome?
Yeah.
Who determines the sex of the child?
The Y chromosome determines the sex of the child.
Which come from the man, correct?
I don't agree with that, but I'm listening.
Okay, well,
I'm for open ears because I may learn something.
From what I understand, the man determines the sex of the child because of the Y chromosome.
I would believe you have to believe that because you trace who you are back from the fathers.
Well, I would
that
say
makes perfect sense in your doctrine.
Well, I would say either way, but is that not a scientific fact? Because, like I said, from my understanding, from the scientific point, the man determines.
I'll tell you
who
this
it
though, and you can look it up.
is.
There's a male and a female, and they want to plan to have a child. Some people want the surprise of knowing if the child is going to be a boy or girl. Some people wonder how the child's going to look. They even have this type of technology now where you can take two people and then they can generate an image of how your child will look at a certain age, and we say man. And they've even tried it out to see that those results are very, very accurate. But we say how and why. Well, one thing that we do know, okay, is that there's iron, right? And then there's zinc. And what we understand as far as what can control or determine the gender of a child, if me as a man and my wife want to have a child, if I consume more iron than she consumes, then my child, iron makes a child female, zinc makes a child male. This is what we learn in science. Iron makes a child female, zinc makes a child male. What happens is, whatever parent consumes more of the other element than that parent, that child will sway in gender one, iron or zinc. So if I as a man consume more iron than my female counterpart, my child, and that iron is also more than the zinc that I've consumed and more than the zinc she has consumed, then that iron would not only register my child as a daughter, but also my child would lean more towards me phenotypically, because I as a man consume more iron than the amount of zinc I consume, and she consumed less iron and less zinc than the amount of iron that I consume. Now, if I was to consume more zinc than iron, then the child will come out male and look more like me. Now, if she was to consume more zinc than the amount of iron that she consumed, then the amount of iron that I consumed, then the amount of zinc that I consumed, then if she consumed more zinc, then the child will come out a boy looking more like her. Now, iron and zinc will determine the gender of the child. That's just through simple diet. Iron and zinc determines the gender of the child. We want to sway the gender of the child. Iron and zinc could do that.
This is confirmable?
This is confirmed. You can look it up.
It's not theoretical, it's confirmable.
I don't play with that.
Okay, all right. Well, not because
I'll tell you what I believe.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what I
you know. Okay. Now, I'm not arguing with that because, I mean, in you saying that I'm not saying that don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? That makes a degree of sense, especially to me at this point from what I know. You know what I'm saying?
You did.
But at the same time, now you're saying that zinc, so you telling me that a woman eats a certain amount of zinc or has a zinc higher diet that outweighs the iron of her male counterpart, then that would likely render the child a male.
A male that looks more like her.
Okay, based off of the zinc intake of her.
That's
Okay,
correct. In
well,
contrast to the zinc intake of the male that she copulated with.
Okay, well, yeah, I'd have to look into that. You know what I'm saying? As far as
Science is
to fully comprehend that. You know what I'm saying? But
that's not a problem.
Yeah, but that's an interesting fact. You know what I'm saying? But and then of course you heard the seed logic that Hebrew Israelites come with. You see what I'm saying? Man carry the seed. You plant the seed in the soil. You know, just the nation of gods and earth. What do they say? The man is God, the woman is earth. Man, plants the seed in the earth.
Yeah,
but
even you still have male plants and you still have female.
No,
plants.
that's a fact. That's a fact.
And then something causes the male plant to be male, something causes the female plant to be female.
Yeah.
It's always going to be evident in nature, depending on what mineral or vitamin is more prevalent. It determines the gender of the child. And the imbalance comes in when we're taking in more of certain chemicals or vitamins or even hormones than need be, which causes the confusion in the child, which is why we have so much homosexuality
like
so prevalent
like
in the community today.
like estrogen, for example.
Yeah, of course estrogen. It's being pumped into the foods.
Exactly.
Purposely.
And I was just going into it because when you deal with the Bible, right, when the Lord has commanded us to do a feast, he said take a male. He don't take a female lamb, he said take a male lamb and slay it. Why? Because men, the Levite priests are going to be the one eating this lamb. So they don't need to be taking too much more estrogen, messing up their balance. You see what I'm saying? So that's something. It's a lot of things
that makes sense.
In the scriptures that we got to take. And that's why we got to look at science, because we got to take a look at science, and we got to see how this science is in the Bible. A lot of people think science is in the Bible. We just aren't looking at it like that.
I understand.
For example, like the book of Ecclesiastes, right? You familiar with the book of Ecclesiastes?
Yes, sir.
Written by Solomon.
Yeah.
That's the conclusion of a series of observational science experiments that Solomon conducted. All we have to do is take a look. He said, well, if you do this, then it's this. And everything is vain, and this, and that. This is what he found out from observing things. And we all have to be observational scientists. Because our ancestors, whether we agree where our ancestors come from, this is what they did, and this is how they started constructing society, through observational science. I understand like how you got people in Africa, like the Bushmen, people in the bush. They'll follow certain animals around. When they see that a gorilla has is low in protein, what will he do? He'll start eating ants. Things of that nature to up their protein. So this is how they understand.
Like y'all eat your babies at one point.
Well, it's high in protein now.
Don't do that.